Aleister Crowley, born on October 12, 1875 in Royal Leamington Spa, England, was the primary architect of Thelema. Raised in a strict Plymouth Brethren family, Crowley rebelled against his Christian upbringing early in life. He studied at Trinity College, Cambridge, where he began using the name Aleister and gained recognition for his chess skills. However, he left the university in 1898 without completing his degree. His inheritance allowed him to travel extensively and pursue his interest in occultism and mysticism. In 1898, he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a prominent occult organization of the time. This experience, along with his travels and studies of various esoteric traditions, laid the groundwork for what would become Thelema. The foundational text of Thelema is the Book of the Law, which Crowley claimed to have received through supernatural means in 1904. According to him, while in Egypt, he entered a trance-like state and channeled the book over 3 days. He attributed its dictation to an entity called Iwas, whom he considered his personal guardian angel. This text introduces the central tenet of Thelema: "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." One concept of Thelemic philosophy is true will. The concept of true will refers to an individual's unique purpose or nature, which Thelemites believe is in harmony with the universe when discovered and pursued. Another key phrase, "love is the law, love under will," complements the primary tenet and suggests that love, guided by one's true will, is the binding force of the universe. The principle, "every man and woman is a star," emphasizes the individual nature of each person's path and true will, suggesting that each person has their own orbit or destiny, distinct from but harmonious with others when properly aligned. The Lemites often speak of the Great Work, which encompasses the process of self-discovery, communion with one's holy guardian angel, and the fulfillment of one's true will. Thelema incorporates a wide range of occult and mystical practices, reflecting Crowley's eclectic influences. Magic, spelled with a K to distinguish it from stage illusions, is seen as a means of bringing about change in accordance with one's will. Thelemic rituals may include elements such as the use of pentagrams, altars, and sun worship, with the Gnostic Mass, developed by Crowley, being a central ritual in many Thelemic groups. Influenced by Eastern practices, Crowley incorporated various forms of yoga and meditation into Thelemic practice. Magic is a particularly controversial aspect of Thelema, with Crowley placing great emphasis on practices as a means of spiritual attainment and magical power. Thelema also incorporates deities from various traditions, particularly Egyptian and Greek, with the principal deities being Nui, Hadit, and more. Additionally, Crowley founded the Argenteum Astrum as his own magical order and became involved with the Ordo Templi Orientis, eventually becoming its leader and reforming it according to Thelemic principles. After his death in 1947, Thelema continued to develop and spread. While he had relatively few followers during his lifetime, Crowley became a cult figure in the decades following his death, influencing various countercultural movements, particularly in the 1960s. The Black Vulga is an urban legend that originated in Eastern Europe, particularly in countries like Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Hungary, and even as far as Mongolia. This story centers around a mysterious black car associated with disturbing activities, including abductions and murders. The Black Vulga legend emerged during a troubling period in Eastern European history. The 1960s and 1970s were marked by the Cold War, political repression, and widespread fear of government surveillance. The Gaz Volga, particularly the 21 and 24 models, was indeed used by Soviet officials and members of the Communist Party. These cars were considered luxury vehicles at the time, and their association with authority figures contributed to their ominous reputation. The use of black cars by secret police organizations like the KGB for surveillance and arrests was a real phenomenon, adding credibility to the legend. In an era of political repression, unexplained disappearances were not uncommon, fueling speculation and fear. One pivotal event that may have contributed to the legend's spread was the disappearance of a 3-year-old girl named Liliana Hensel in 1965. She was last seen near a Black Vulga, which sparked public anxiety and cemented the car's sinister reputation in the public imagination. The car is often said to have white wheel rims, white curtains, or other white accents, as well as tinted or curtained windows. Some accounts claim that the vehicle had demonic characteristics as well. Things like the side mirrors being shaped like horns and the license plate sporting the number 666. The core narrative of the legend typically follows a similar pattern across different regions, though details may vary. The vehicle is said to appear suddenly, often at night or in isolated areas. It primarily targets vulnerable individuals, especially children, though some versions include adults as potential victims. Various abduction methods are mentioned, such as the driver asking a passerby for the time, then dragging them into the car when they approach, or the car simply appearing, snatching its victim, and disappearing quickly. In some versions, the driver tells the victim they will die at the same time the next day. After the abduction, the car vanishes without a trace, leaving no evidence behind. Those who claim to have seen the Black Vulga often meet mysterious deaths shortly after reporting their sightings. One of the most intriguing aspects of the legend is the mystery surrounding the driver's identity. The most common and perhaps most plausible explanation is that the drivers were KGB agents given the real-world use of the car by Soviet officials. Other theories suggest the Russian mafia or Satanists and cultists. In more supernatural versions of the tale, Satan himself is said to be behind the wheel. Some particularly unsettling versions involve priests or nuns playing on the subversion of trusted religious figures. One common narrative suggests that victims were abducted to have their organs removed and sold on the black market. Another claim is that children's blood was collected to treat wealthy Westerners or Arabs suffering from leukemia. Some versions allege that victims were sold into slavery or while more occult-oriented theories suggest the abductions were for satanic or other dark rituals. Joshua Norton was born in England in 1818. In 1820, his family relocated to South Africa as part of a government-backed colonization plan. Following his father's death in 1848, Norton left South Africa, eventually arriving in San Francisco. The exact date of his arrival is debated, but city directories listed him in 1850, and a Joshua Norton & Co. was running business advertisements in local papers that year. While some reports claim Norton arrived with $40,000, this is unconfirmed. Nonetheless, he quickly established a successful real estate and importing business in the city. By 1855, he had become one of San Francisco's most respected businessmen, having diversified his operations and rebounded from the city's devastating 1853 fire. His success and commanding presence led friends to refer to him as Emperor even before his later proclamation. However, Norton's fortunes took a dramatic turn when he attempted to corner San Francisco's rice market. Anticipating high demand from the city's growing Chinese population, Norton invested heavily in rice. Initially, the venture seemed successful, but the unexpected arrival of 2 ships laden with rice caused prices to plummet. Norton was financially ruined, spending the next 3 years in court battles before ending up broke in 1858. After his financial collapse, he disappeared from public view for approximately 9 months. When he resurfaced in San Francisco in the late summer of 1859, it was clear that he had undergone a significant change in both appearance and demeanor. On September 17, 1859, Norton walked into the offices of the San Francisco Daily Evening Bulletin, a prominent local newspaper, with a proclamation in hand. The document he presented to the editor said the following: "At the peremptory request and desire of a large majority of the citizens of these United States, I, Joshua Norton, formerly of Algoa Bay, Cape of Good Hope, and now for the past 9 years and 10 months of San Francisco, California, declare and proclaim myself Emperor of these United States." The Bulletin, perhaps sensing the potential for increased readership or simply amused by the audacity of Norton's claim, published the proclamation on the front page of their next edition. This publication marked the official beginning of Norton's reign as Norton, Emperor Emperor of the United States. His initial proclamation went beyond merely declaring himself emperor. He also ordered representatives from different states to assemble in San Francisco's Musical Hall the following February. The purpose of this gathering, according to Norton, was to make such alterations in the existing laws of the Union as may ameliorate the evils under which the country is laboring, and thereby cause confidence to exist both at home and abroad in our stability and integrity. In the months following his initial proclamation, Norton continued to issue edicts and decrees, each building upon his self-proclaimed imperial status. In 1860, he expanded his title to include Protector of Mexico. Furthermore, he began to dress the part of an emperor, donning a blue uniform adorned with brass buttons and gold-plated epaulets. He often wore a beaver hat decorated with a peacock feather and other ornaments, creating a distinctive appearance that made him instantly recognizable on the streets of San Francisco. The city's response to Norton's actions was shockingly accepting, even supportive. While some may have viewed him as eccentric or even insane, many residents embraced their new emperor with a mixture of amusement and affection. Local businesses began to honor currency issued in Norton's name, and he was often given free meals at restaurants and reserved seats at theaters. Emperor Norton's relationship with law enforcement in San Francisco was generally positive, but it was not without its notable incidents. The most significant of these occurred on January 21st, 1867, when an officer named Armand Barbier arrested Norton on charges of vagrancy. It should be noted that he was not a regular police officer, but rather a special officer, part of an auxiliary force that functioned more like private security guards. These individuals were under the oversight of the police chief, but were paid by neighborhood residents and business owners. Despite often being called policemen, they did not have the full authority of the regular police force. Upon discovering that Norton had money in his pockets, Barbier changed the charge to lunacy. This charge was particularly serious, as it could have resulted in Norton's commitment to the state's insane asylum in Stockton. The arrest of Emperor Norton caused immediate public outrage. San Francisco residents who had grown fond of Norton saw this action as an egregious affront to a beloved local figure. The city's newspapers were quick to come to Norton's defense, publishing scathing editorials condemning the arrest. The public outcry quickly reached the ears of Police Chief Patrick Crowley. Recognizing the gravity of the situation and the potential for public unrest, Crowley took swift action. He personally ordered Norton's release and issued a formal apology on behalf of the entire police department. This incident marked a turning point in Emperor Norton's relationship with law enforcement. Following his release, Norton issued an imperial pardon to the officer who mistakenly arrested him. From that point forward, the San Francisco police treated Emperor Norton with a level of respect that bordered on reverence. Officers were instructed to salute him whenever they encountered him on his daily rounds through the city. This practice became so ingrained that it continued for the remainder of Norton's life, lasting until his death in 1880. His funeral in 1880 was attended by an estimated 10,000 people. In 2023, the 600 block of Commercial Street in San Francisco was renamed Emperor Norton Place. He is considered a patron saint of Discordianism, and a park in the micronation of Molossia is named after him. Mark Twain, a San Francisco resident during Norton's reign, based the character of the king in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn on Emperor Norton. The story of the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt began in 1988 when Fenn, an art dealer and former fighter pilot from Santa Fe, New Mexico, received a devastating cancer diagnosis. At the time, doctors removed his cancer-plagued right kidney and gave him a grim prognosis. This brush with mortality sparked an idea in his mind that would eventually captivate thousands of people and lead to one of the most famous treasure hunts in modern history. Deeply affected by his father's recent passing from cancer, Fenn began contemplating his own mortality and how he wanted to face death. He was determined to approach his end on his own terms, stating, "Dying is something I want to do by myself. I don't need any help. I don't want somebody holding my hand. Everybody's crying." This sentiment led to a rather unconventional plan that would combine adventure, mystery, and his own final resting place. Late one night, he conceived the idea of hiding a treasure chest filled with valuable items in a remote location. He envisioned writing a poem containing clues that would lead seekers to the treasure's location. In a macabre twist, Fenn initially planned to take sleeping pills and die alongside the treasure, creating a scenario where anyone who found it would essentially be robbing his grave. Fenn began approaching writers with this unusual concept, hoping to find someone who would publish a book containing the poem and thus set the treasure hunt in motion. Among the first writers he approached was best-selling author Douglas Preston, a longtime friend. Preston recalled Fenn sharing the idea over lunch, describing it as a terrific story. However, neither Preston nor any of the other writers were willing to take on the project. Fenn speculated that, quote, "they didn't like the idea of me dying out in the trees someplace." Despite the initial setbacks in finding a writer, Fenn's plans took an unexpected turn when his cancer treatment proved successful. Although he no longer faced imminent death, the idea of the treasure hunt had taken root in his mind and he couldn't let it go. Over the next 2 decades, he continued to develop and refine his plan. In 2010, at the age of 80, he decided to bring his treasure hunt to life. He acquired an ornate bronze lockbox and spent years carefully curating its contents. The chest, estimated to be worth around $2 million, was filled with a diverse array of valuable items. These included 265 gold coins, Alaskan placer, gold nuggets, precious gemstones such as rubies, emeralds, diamonds, and sapphires, pre-Columbian gold artifacts, ancient jewelry, and even a small jar containing Fenn's personal autobiography. Fenn's motivation for creating the hunt had evolved from his initial morbid plan. Now, he saw it as a way to inspire adventure and exploration, particularly among younger generations. He expressed a desire to get kids off the couch and away from their texting machines and out in the mountains. At the center of the treasure hunt lies a 24-line poem, carefully crafted by Fenn himself and published in his 2010 memoir, The Thrill of the Chase. This poem, containing 9 clues, became the key to unlocking the location of the hidden treasure chest. The poem reads as follows: "As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk. Put in below the home of Brown. From there it's no place for the meek, the end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down, your quest to cease, but tarry scant with marvel gaze. Just take the chest and go in peace. So why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek? The answers I already know. I've done it tired and now I'm weak. So hear me all and listen good. Your effort will be worth the cold. If you are brave and in the wood, I give you title to the gold." The memoir itself, The Thrill of the Chase, contained additional context and potential hints that could aid treasure hunters in their quest. By 2020, over 40,000 copies of the book had been sold through a single bookstore in Santa Fe. The search area spanned 4 states: New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Treasure hunters, known as searchers, came from all walks of life. Many dedicated years of their lives and significant resources to the pursuit. For instance, Katya Luce sold all her possessions and relocated, spending approximately $75,000 over 7 years in her quest for the treasure. Searchers employed various strategies to interpret the poem's clues. Some focused on geographical features that matched phrases like "where warm waters halt" or "the home of Brown." Others delved deep into Fenn's personal history, believing that understanding the man was key to unlocking the puzzle. Many used a combination of literary analysis, geographical knowledge, and personal insight into Fenn's life to guide their search. The hunt was not without its dangers. At least 5 people lost their lives while searching for the treasure, leading to calls for Fenn to end the hunt. Despite the risks, the allure of adventure and potential riches continued to draw people to the chase. Searchers reported finding various interesting items and locations during their quests, even if they weren't the treasure itself. Joel Lewicki, a dedicated searcher, emphasized that the real value of the hunt lay in the friendships formed and the memories created along the way. The search also had its share of controversies. Some searchers became convinced that Fenn was monitoring their movements and relocating the treasure to prevent its discovery. Jamie McCracken, a Florida-based searcher, even launched a lawsuit against Fenn, claiming that the antiquities dealer had moved the treasure 4 times to keep him from finding it. The search for the treasure came to an unexpected conclusion on June 6, 2020. On that day, Fenn announced on his blog that the treasure had been found, stating, "The treasure was found under a starry sky in the lush, forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains." This sudden revelation sent waves through the treasure hunting community, as many had believed the search would continue for years to come. Initially, the finder's identity remained a mystery. Fenn respected the discoverer's wish for anonymity, saying, "The finder wants me to remain silent, and I always said the finder gets to make those two calls, who and where." This secrecy fueled speculation and controversy within the community of searchers. On June 16th, Fenn posted 3 photographs of himself with the treasure chest, apparently taken in a lawyer's office. These images provided the first visual confirmation that the treasure had indeed been found, but still left many questions unanswered. As the community clamored for more information, Fenn made another announcement on July 22, 2020. Recognizing the importance of closure for many searchers, he revealed that the treasure had been found in Wyoming. This information narrowed down the search area, but still left much to the imagination of those who had spent years pursuing the treasure. The story took a tragic turn on September 7th of the same year, when Fenn's family announced that he had passed away from natural causes. His death left many fearing that the full story of the treasure's discovery might never be known. However, on September 23, 2020, an anonymous blog post titled "A Remembrance of Forrest Fenn" appeared on Medium, written by someone identifying themselves only as The Finder. This post provided the first detailed account of the discovery from the finder's perspective. The author described spending 25 full days scouring a specific area before finally locating the treasure. Intriguingly, they mentioned solving the riddle in 2018, but not being able to find the actual chest until 2 years later. Fast forward to December, another breakthrough came about when the finder's identity was finally revealed. Jack Stoof, a 32-year-old medical student from Michigan, came forward as the person who had solved Fenn's puzzle and found the treasure. Jack explained that he had decided to reveal his identity due to an ongoing lawsuit that would likely have exposed his name in court proceedings. Jack's journey to finding the treasure began in early 2018 when he first learned about Fenn's chase on Twitter. He became instantly obsessed, dedicating at least a couple of hours every day to thinking about the hunt. His approach to solving the puzzle focused on understanding Fenn's personality and motivations, rather than relying on complex codes or GPS coordinates. In an interview, he revealed that he had figured out the location where Fenn wished to die in 2018. He then spent a combined 25 days over the next 2 years searching the general area until he finally located the treasure. Jack emphasized the importance of carefully listening to Fenn's interviews, noting that he had made only a couple of subtle slip-ups in front of reporters, which apparently hadn't been caught by anyone else. Despite the revelation of his identity, Jack has remained guarded about the exact location where he found the treasure. He expressed concerns that the spot could become a tourist destination and lose what made it so special to Fenn. In December 2022, Jack auctioned off 476 of the items found in the chest, including precious coins, an Alaskan gold nugget weighing 549 grams, a pair of scissors, a gold pectoral, and a frog pendant from the Middle Ages. The sale generated over $1 million. In the redwood forest just outside Santa Cruz, California, the mystery spot has been captivating visitors for over 80 years with its apparent defiance of the laws of physics and gravity. This unique roadside attraction, discovered in 1939 by George Prather, a car mechanic and inventor, officially opened to the public in 1940. According to local lore, George stumbled upon the site while surveying the area for a potential summer home. He and his workers reportedly experienced strange phenomena, including dizziness and erratic compass behavior, leading George to recognize the location's potential as a tourist attraction. The mystery spot's lasting popularity and cultural impact were recognized in 2014 when it was designated as a California Historical Landmark. This designation acknowledged its significance as the first and most prominent example of a tilt box or gravity house roadside attraction in the state. Located at 465 Mystery Spot Road, the site is easily accessible by car. Visitors are treated to a 45-minute guided tour that showcases various puzzling phenomena within a circular area approximately 150 feet in diameter. The tour's centerpiece is a cabin built at a 17-degree angle, where visitors can walk on walls, stand at seemingly impossible angles, and witness objects rolling uphill. Throughout the tour, guests experience a range of odd effects, including apparent height changes, water flowing uphill, and a general sense of disorientation. The surrounding trees are said to grow at strange angles, adding to the overall mysterious atmosphere. While the location presents itself as a gravitational anomaly, scientists and skeptics have offered more grounded explanations for the phenomena. UC Santa Cruz psychologist Bruce Bridgman argues that the effects are primarily due to optical illusions. Our brains are accustomed to interpreting the world based on the assumption that floors are flat and walls are vertical. When these assumptions are violated, as in the tilted environment of the mystery spot, our perception is thrown off, resulting in the illusions experienced. The location's status as a gravity hill also contributes to the illusions, as the surrounding landscape creates an optical illusion that makes slight downhill slopes appear to be uphill. The clever use of forced perspective and intentionally tilted structures further enhances these effects. Christopher McCandless was born on February 12, 1968 in Inglewood, California. He spent his early childhood years in El Segundo, California before his family relocated to Annandale, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. in 1976. Chris was Walt and Billy's eldest child. He had a younger sister, Kareen, born in July 1971, with whom he shared a close bond throughout his life. The family's move to the east was prompted by Walt's new position as an antenna specialist for NASA. Billy initially worked as a secretary for Hughes Aircraft before the couple established a successful consultancy business from their home, leveraging Walt's expertise in antenna technology. This entrepreneurial venture brought financial stability and affluence to the family, placing them solidly in the upper middle class bracket of Fairfax County, Virginia. Christopher's early education quickly distinguished himself as an academically gifted student. In 3rd grade, he scored exceptionally well on a standardized achievement test, leading to his placement in an accelerated program for gifted students. Despite the academic recognition, young Christopher was unhappy about the extra schoolwork and spent a week trying to convince his teacher, principal, and anyone who would listen that the test results were erroneous and that he didn't belong in the program. This episode led his teacher to remark to his parents that, quote, Chris marches to a different drummer, an observation that would foreshadow his later life choices. Throughout his primary and secondary education, Christopher continued to excel academically while also developing a strong interest in physical activities, particularly running. He became deeply involved in cross-country running during his high school years at W.T. Woodson High School, eventually serving as the team captain. He approached running with an almost spiritual view, encouraging his teammates to look at their efforts as a battle against the forces of darkness, all the evil in the world, all the hatred. This intense idealistic approach to physical challenges would later manifest in his wilderness adventures. Despite his academic and athletic achievements, Christopher's high school years were marked by a growing sense of disillusionment with societal norms and materialism. In 1986, he graduated from high school and embarked on a summer trip to the West Coast before starting college. While reconnecting with relatives in California, he uncovered a family secret that would deeply affect him. He learned that his father had lived in a bigamous relationship for a time, fathering children with his first wife after Christopher and Kareen were born to his second wife, Billy. This revelation shook Christopher's trust in his parents and contributed to his growing skepticism about societal institutions and conventional lifestyles. Following this transformative summer, Christopher enrolled at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. There, he pursued a double major in history and anthropology, fields that aligned with his interests in human cultures and societal structures. His time at university was marked by academic success coupled with an increasing detachment from materialistic values. During his college years, Christopher's independence and unconventional thinking became more pronounced. He declined membership in a prestigious academic honor society, reasoning that such honors and titles were irrelevant. This decision reflected his growing disdain for what he perceived as empty accolades and societal expectations. In May 1990, Christopher graduated. Rather than following the conventional path expected of a bright, well-educated young man from an affluent family, he chose to embark on an odd journey. Shortly after graduation, he made a decision that shocked his family and friends. He donated his entire college fund, approximately $24K, to an international charity dedicated to fighting global poverty. This generous act was a symbolic rejection of materialism and a statement of his intent to live by different values. Without informing his family of his plans, Christopher packed his belongings into his 1982 Datsun and set out on the road. He adopted the moniker Alexander Supertramp. This alias would become his primary identity during his travels, allowing him to reinvent himself with each new encounter. Throughout his travels, he formed short but often meaningful connections with people he met along the way. One of the most significant of these encounters was with Wayne Westerberg in Carthage, South Dakota. Westerberg, a grain elevator operator, provided Christopher with work and became something of a father figure to the young wanderer. Christopher would return to Carthage several times during his journey, using it as a base to earn money for his continued travels. In October 1990, his journey took a more adventurous turn. He purchased a second-hand canoe in Topak, Arizona, and decided to paddle down the Colorado River to the Gulf of California. By early December, Christopher had reached the Mexican border. In a daring move, he snuck across the border through a dam's floodgates. However, he soon found himself lost in the complex network of irrigation canals in northern Mexico. This setback did not deter him. Instead, it became another chapter in his adventure. With the help of some local duck hunters, Christopher eventually made his way to the Gulf of California on December 10th, 1990. In early 1991, his journey took him to Las Vegas, where he briefly tried to integrate back into conventional society by taking a job. However, this attempt was short-lived. By February 24th, 1991, he had left Las Vegas uncomfortable with the trappings of urban life and eager to return to his nomadic existence. In April 1992, Christopher embarked on his final and most ambitious adventure, a journey into the Alaskan wilderness. The young adventurer's Alaskan expedition was the culmination of his 2-year nomadic lifestyle and his quest for a raw, authentic experience in nature. He arrived in Fairbanks, Alaska on April 25th via the Alaska Highway. He spent 2 days and 3 nights in the vicinity, primarily at the University of Alaska campus. During this short stay, he made final preparations for his wilderness trek. In the campus bookstore, he discovered a comprehensive field guide to the region's edible plants that would later play a pivotal role in his survival attempts. Before departing Fairbanks, Christopher sent his final messages to the outside world. He purchased 2 postcards depicting a polar bear and mailed them from the university post office to Wayne Westerberg and Jan Burris, 2 individuals who had befriended him during his travels. These postcards would be the last direct communication from Christopher to his acquaintances. On April 28th, he hitched a ride from Fairbanks to the head of the Stampede Trail near the small town of Healy. His final lift came from Jim Gallion, a local electrician who would later provide valuable insights into Christopher's state of mind and preparedness. Jim was immediately struck by Christopher's light pack and minimal equipment. He observed that the young man, who introduced himself as Alex, carried a meager 10 pounds of rice, a .22 caliber rifle, and a few books. The concerns about Christopher's readiness for the harsh Alaskan wilderness were well-founded. The young adventurer lacked several crucial items for survival in such an unforgiving environment. He had no compass, no detailed topographical maps of the area, and his clothing and footwear were inadequate for the extreme conditions he would face. Despite Jim's attempts to dissuade him or at least better equip him for the journey, Christopher remained determined to venture into the wild. As Christopher set off along the snow-covered Stampede Trail, he was embarking on a journey that would take him approximately 28 miles west of Healy into a remote area near Denali National Park. His goal, as he had expressed to others, was to live off the land and to push himself to the limits of survival. About 20 miles into his trek, he made a discovery that would become central to his time in the Alaskan outdoors. He came across an abandoned bus known as Bus 142 Inches, or the Magic Bus. This derelict vehicle would become Christopher's home base for the next 113 days. During the initial weeks of his stay, Christopher focused on establishing a routine for survival. He foraged for edible plants using the knowledge gleaned from his field guide. He also hunted small game, including porcupines porcupines, squirrels, and birds such as ptarmigans and Canada geese. His .22 rifle, while not ideal for large game, proved sufficient for these smaller animals. Christopher documented his experiences in a journal, which provided insight into his daily life and mental state during this period. His entries were typically brief, often just a few words per day, but they painted a picture of his activities and the challenges he faced. One of the most significant events in the wild occurred on June 9, 1992, when he successfully hunted a moose. This was a major accomplishment for the inexperienced hunter, but it quickly turned into what he described as one of the greatest tragedies of his life. He struggled to preserve the meat properly, and much of it spoiled before he could consume it. This waste deeply affected him, as evidenced by his regretful journal entries. As summer progressed in 1992, Christopher's Alaskan adventure took a dire turn. By July, after living in the abandoned bus for a little over 2 months, Christopher decided it was time to return to civilization. However, his attempt to leave was thwarted by an unexpected obstacle. The Teclonica River, which Chris had crossed with relative ease when he entered the wilderness on April 28th, had transformed into a raging torrent due to summer meltwater from the Cantwell Glacier. The river, now swollen and impassable, effectively trapped him in the wilderness, forcing him to return to the bus. Forced back to his makeshift shelter, Chris found himself in an increasingly desperate situation. His food supplies were dwindling and his physical condition was rapidly deteriorating. On July 30th, Chris made an entry in his journal that would later become central to theories about his demise. He wrote, "Extremely weak, fault of potato seed, much trouble to just stand up, starving, great jeopardy." This entry suggests that Chris believed he had been poisoned by seeds from a wild potato plant, which he had been consuming as part of his forage diet. As August arrived, the situation grew even more dire. His ability to hunt and forage was severely compromised by his weakened state. Despite his efforts to sustain himself, his body was slowly succumbing to the effects of malnutrition and possibly toxicity from the plants he had consumed. Throughout this situation, Chris continued to document his experiences, leaving behind a record that would later provide insights into his final days. His last dated journal entry was on August 12, 1992, simply noting "beautiful blueberries." After this final dated entry, Chris became too weak to write. However, he managed to take a series of photographs of himself during these last days. These images show a gaunt, bearded young man, a stark contrast to the healthy, idealistic adventurer who had set out months earlier. In one of his final acts, Chris took a self-portrait holding a farewell note that read, "I have had a happy life and thank the Lord. Goodbye and may God bless all." His body was discovered on September 6, 1992 by a group of moose hunters who had stumbled upon the bus. They found his emaciated body inside a sleeping bag, weighing only 67 pounds. Nearby, they found his driver's license and journal, finally revealing the identity of the young man who had called himself Alexander Supertramp. Based on the evidence found at the scene, it is believed that Chris died sometime around August 18th, just over 19 weeks after he had walked into the Alaskan wilderness. The official cause of the death was recorded as starvation. However, the exact circumstances leading to his death have been the subject of much debate and research in the years since. The journal entries, particularly the one mentioning the potato seed, have fueled various theories about what ultimately led to his demise. There are many theories regarding the specific details around Chris's death. They seem to all be in agreement that it was some type of food that he consumed which led to his demise. Some suggest that it was caused by wild potato seeds, while others propose that some type of mold caused the death. Highgate Cemetery, established in 1839 in North London, is one of the Magnificent Seven cemeteries created to address London's overcrowding burial crisis in the 19th century. Known for its Victorian Gothic architecture and elaborate tombs, the cemetery fell into disrepair after World War II, becoming overgrown and subject to vandalism. The Highgate Vampire legend emerged in the late 1960s and early 1970s, sparked by a series of reported supernatural occurrences and sightings in and around the cemetery. On December 24, 1969, David Farrant, a local resident, claimed to have seen a gray figure in the cemetery, which he believed to be supernatural. This sighting, reported in a letter to the Hampstead and Highgate Express on February 6, 1970, prompted others to share their own ghostly encounters. Following David's letter, numerous people reported various spectral sightings, including a tall man in a hat, a spectral cyclist, a woman in white, a face glaring through cemetery gates, a figure wading into a pond, a pale gliding form, and unexplained sounds like bells ringing and voices calling. The narrative took a turn when Sean Manchester, president of the British Occult Society, introduced his own version of the vampire theory. On February 27, 1970, the Hampstead and Highgate Express published an article titled "Does a Vampire Walk in Highgate?" featuring Sean's assertions. He claimed that the Highgate phenomenon was not merely a harmless ghost, but a vampire. According to Manchester, this vampire was allegedly a medieval nobleman who practiced black magic in Romania. His followers had supposedly transported his remains to England in the early 18th century, and the body was interred on the site that later became Highgate Cemetery. Sean further claimed that recent satanic rituals in the cemetery had reawakened this evil presence. The vampire theory captured public imagination, leading to widespread media coverage and a surge of interest in the cemetery. This culminated in a massive vampire hunt on Friday, March 13, 1970. Hundreds of people armed with wooden stakes and crucifixes converged on the cemetery. Despite police efforts, many breached the cemetery walls. Some participants claimed to have seen something gray moving slowly across the road. The event garnered significant media attention, further fueling the hysteria. Beyond the vampire sightings, Highgate Cemetery became associated with various paranormal phenomena. The Grey Lady, a commonly reported apparition, was described as a woman in Victorian-era attire who glided silently among the tombstones. Witnesses reported feeling sorrow or a chill in her presence. Other reported phenomena included spectral sounds such as whispers and footsteps, unexplained temperature drops, malfunctioning of watches and clocks, and sightings of other ghostly figures, including a nun and a mad old woman. Both David and Sean, along with their respective groups, conducted various investigations and rituals in attempts to address the alleged supernatural presence. David's approach involved attempting to communicate with the entity through seances, using circles, incense, candles, and mediums in rituals. He claimed that during one ritual, a medium was attacked, feeling strangled by an unseen force. Sean, on the other hand, made more dramatic claims. He allegedly located and entered a catacomb containing the vampire's coffin, performed exorcisms using holy water, garlic, and salt, and claimed to have found the vampire's coffin in an abandoned mansion years later. Various theories have been proposed to explain the Highgate vampire phenomenon. Psychological factors such as mass hysteria, fueled by media coverage, and the power of suggestion leading to increased reports of sightings have been suggested. Environmental factors, including the cemetery's gothic atmosphere and state of disrepair, contributing to a sense of the supernatural, and possible misidentification of natural phenomena or wildlife, have also been considered. Some skeptics suggest the entire affair was a hoax or publicity stunt, with the ongoing feud between David and Sean perpetuating the legend. Others point to reports of occult activity, suggesting that genuine occult practices may have influenced events. On January 26, 1972, Yugoslav Airlines Flight 367 became the scene of a shocking event that would lead to one of the most extraordinary survival stories. The flight was scheduled to travel from Stockholm to Belgrade, with planned stopovers in Copenhagen and Zagreb. The aircraft involved was a McDonnell Douglas DC-932. The day began routinely for the flight crew, including 22-year-old flight attendant Vesna Vulović. However, Vesna's presence on the flight was the result of an unusual circumstance. There had been a scheduling mix-up involving another stewardess with the same first name, leading to Vesna being assigned to this particular flight. Despite the confusion, she was reportedly pleased with the opportunity to visit Denmark, a country she had never been to before. The flight departed from Stockholm Arlanda Airport at 1:30 p.m. The first leg of the journey proceeded without incident, and the aircraft landed at Copenhagen Airport at 2:30 p.m. It was here that Vesna and her colleagues boarded the plane, taking over from the previous crew. During the stopover in Copenhagen, she and other crew members noticed something peculiar. They observed a male passenger who seemed unusually agitated or annoyed. This man's behavior was striking enough to catch the attention of not only Vesna, but also other crew members and even the station manager in Copenhagen. In retrospect, Vesna would later speculate that this individual might have been responsible for placing a bomb in the baggage compartment. The flight departed Copenhagen Airport at 3:15 p.m., carrying 28 passengers and crew members. As the aircraft cruised at an altitude of approximately 33,000 feet over East Germany, there was no indication of the impending disaster. The flight attendants were in the process of preparing for in-flight service, and there were no reports of turbulence or other atmospheric disturbances. At precisely 4 p.m., a powerful explosion ripped through the aircraft's baggage compartment located in the forward left section of the plane. The force of the blast was catastrophic, causing the plane to break apart into 3 main sections while still at high altitude. Most of the passengers and crew were believed to have been sucked out of the plane into the freezing temperatures of the upper atmosphere. The aircraft disappeared from radar screens, and there was no communication from the flight crew to air traffic control in East Germany or Czechoslovakia, the airspace the plane was entering at the time of the explosion. As the 3 sections of the aircraft plummeted towards the earth, they scattered over a wide area. The region where the wreckage landed had dense forest and snow-covered ground. Amidst the chaos and destruction, a miracle-like scenario was unfolding. Vesna, trapped in a section of the fuselage by a food cart, was hurtling towards the ground from an altitude that no human had ever survived without a parachute. The exact mechanics of her fall remain a subject of speculation and debate, but several factors likely contributed to her improbable survival. The section of fuselage containing Vesna is believed to have landed on a heavily wooded, snow-covered slope. The combination of trees and deep snow likely helped to decelerate her fall, absorbing some of the immense impact. Additionally, the food cart that had pinned her in place may have provided some protection, preventing her from being thrown clear of the wreckage during the fall. Her survival of the 33,330-foot fall was nothing short of miraculous, but it came at a tremendous physical cost. The extent of her injuries was severe, requiring months of intensive medical care and rehabilitation. When she was discovered among the wreckage by Bruno Honke, a local villager and former World War II medic, she was in critical condition. Her injuries included a fractured skull, cerebral hemorrhage, 2 broken legs, 3 broken vertebrae, a fractured pelvis, and several broken ribs. The impact had also caused temporary paralysis from the waist down. Vesna was immediately rushed to the hospital, where she spent the first several days in a coma. Her condition was so grave that doctors initially told her parents that although there was still life in her body, she was not expected to survive. However, defying all odds, she awoke from her coma after 3 days and, in a moment that would become emblematic of her resilience, asked for a cigarette. The road to recovery was long and arduous. Vesna underwent multiple surgeries to address her numerous injuries. The fractured skull and cerebral hemorrhage were of particular concern, requiring delicate neurosurgical interventions. Her broken vertebrae posed a significant challenge, as they not only caused her temporary paralysis, but also threatened her long-term mobility. One of the most remarkable aspects of the recovery was her gradual regaining of movement in her legs. Initially paralyzed from the waist down, she first regained movement in her left leg following surgery. Approximately a month later, she began to regain function in her right leg as well. This progressive recovery of motor function was a testament to both the skill of her medical team and her own determination. Vesna's recovery continued long after she left the hospital. The medical community was astounded by her survival and recovery. Her case provided valuable insights into the human body's capacity to withstand extreme trauma and the potential for recovery from severe injuries. The extraordinary nature of Vesna's survival has led to numerous controversies and alternative theories surrounding the events of Flight 367. While the official explanation attributes the incident to a bomb explosion, several competing narratives have popped up for the year. The official account, supported by the Czechoslovak Civil Aviation Authority, states that a briefcase bomb placed in the aircraft's baggage compartment caused the explosion. This theory was bolstered by the fact that on the same day, another bomb detonated on a train between Vienna and Zagreb, injuring 6 people. Yugoslav authorities suspected Croatian ultranationalist terrorists, specifically the Ustasha group, were behind both attacks. This suspicion was further reinforced when, the day after the incident, a Swedish newspaper received a call from someone claiming to be a Croatian nationalist taking credit for downing Flight 367. However, the lack of arrests and concrete evidence linking any specific group to the bombing has left room for alternative explanations. One of the most prominent challenges to the official narrative emerged in 2009 when two Prague-based journalists, Peter Hornung Anderson and Pavel Theiner, proposed a radically different theory. These journalists claimed that the flight had been mistakenly shot down by the Czechoslovak Air Force at a much lower altitude of approximately 800 meters, significantly less than the official altitude of 10,160 meters. They suggested that the state security had fabricated Vesna's record fall as part of an elaborate cover-up. Lee Arthur Carter, known professionally as Viper, has emerged as one of the most enigmatic figures in the world of hip-hop. Born on October 7, 1971 in El Dorado, Arkansas, Carter's musical journey began at a young age. He started playing piano at 5 and began rapping at 9 after moving to the Hiram Clark neighborhood of Houston, Texas. His entry into the music industry came in 1997 when he appeared on the soundtrack for the film Fifth Ward, directed by his brother Greg Carter under the name J-Ride. In 2003, Carter released his first album under the name Lee Dog, which he later renamed Hustling Thick after adopting the Viper moniker. Throughout the early 2000s, he continued to release mixtapes under his Rhymetime Records label through CD Baby, becoming one of the early pioneers of cloud rap. Viper's breakthrough came in 2013 when his 2008 album, You Cowards Don't Even Smoke Crack, gained widespread attention after being posted on YouTube. The album's provocative title and unique cover art turned it into an internet meme, garnering millions of views and catapulting Viper into cult status. What sets Viper apart is his prolific output and distinctive style. He claims to have released over 1,500 albums, with reports of him releasing almost an album per day in 2014. While this claim is likely exaggerated, his output is undeniably vast. He is considered one of the originators of cloud rap, known for its hazy, dreamlike production and subdued vocals. Viper's music is characterized by its low-budget amateur approach. His album covers often feature simple self-portraits and clip art with plain text superimposed. Viper's lyrics often touch on outlandish or provocative themes, with album titles like F*** Earth, I'm Going to Wage an Interstellar War, and I Grew Gills and Survived the Houston Flood. In January 2024, Lee Arthur Carter's name moved from cult music circles to mainstream news headlines due to serious criminal allegations. On January 4th, 2024, Carter was arrested and charged with aggravated kidnapping. The charges stem from accusations that he held a woman captive in his garage for several years. According to court documents and police reports, on April 7th, 2023, police responded to a call about a kidnapping in progress at Carter's residence on Perry Street in Southeast Houston. Officers heard a woman's voice coming from a window and began communicating with her. The woman alleged that Carter had kidnapped her approximately 4 to 5 years earlier when she was pregnant and panhandling off Alameda Genoa Road. The woman claimed Carter initially offered her help, but then took her to his home and held her against her will. She reported that Carter repeatedly forced her to have sex with him, made her take drugs, and prevented her from leaving by locking her inside a garage. She stated that she had limited access to food, mainly subsisting on chips and snacks, and had not showered in almost 2 months at the time of her rescue. The woman said she had attempted to escape multiple times, but was always caught and returned to the garage. After one escape attempt, Carter allegedly boarded up the garage window to prevent further attempts. On the day of her rescue, the woman managed to contact police using a Text Now app on Carter's laptop, which he had left accessible to her. When authorities gained access to the garage, they found a makeshift toilet that did not flush, a sink with a dripping faucet, a mattress covered in fresh vomit, assorted chips and Twinkies, and a stack of shirts and diapers. Officers described the victim as extremely malnourished, weighing approximately 70 pounds, with a pungent stench, and wearing filthy clothes without shoes. As the investigation unfolded, additional disturbing details came to light. A neighbor reported to police that while they never saw anything suspicious, conversations with Carter led them to believe illegal activities might be occurring in the house. During the investigation, police discovered that a second woman had died on Carter's property in July 2023. However, they stated that this death was not believed to be related to the kidnapping case and that the woman had died of natural causes. On February 29, 2024, Carter was charged with kidnapping and assaulting a second woman in 2021, further complicating his legal situation. Text messages revealed in a new warrant showed that the captive woman had texted Carter, "I'm dying," to which he allegedly responded, "Quit the dramatics." The warrant also indicated that the woman repeatedly asked to use the bathroom and requested food and drugs while in captivity. Carter has pleaded not guilty to the charges. His attorney alleges that Carter and the woman were previously in a consensual relationship and that the allegations are fabrications following their breakup. Carter himself took to social media to proclaim his innocence, stating, "I am innocent and I am out of jail. I did not do any of the allegations and I will be fully exonerated." However, his behavior following these allegations has been erratic and confusing. He posted a video of himself rapping over a TV news report about his alleged crimes with the caption, "It's over, it's been a good run." This was later suggested to be an attempt at irony, as he has continued to release music prolifically since the story broke. The Allan Hills meteorite, discovered in Antarctica on December 27, 1984, has become one of the most intriguing and controversial objects in the study of Mars. This 1.93 kilogram igneous rock, originally misclassified as a diagenite, was later identified as a Martian meteorite through oxygen isotope analysis in 1993. Its significance lies not only in its Martian origin, but also in its age, estimated to be over 4 billion years old, making it one of the oldest known Martian samples. The meteorite crystallized from Martian magma, and over millions of years, it underwent various geological processes before being violently ejected from the Martian surface about 17 million years ago, likely due to a massive impact event. After its long journey through space, it fell to Earth in Antarctica roughly 13,000 years ago, where it remained preserved in ice until its discovery by the ANS MET project team. In 1996, the ALH meteorite catapulted to worldwide fame when a team of NASA scientists, led by David S. McKay, published a paper in Science suggesting that it might contain evidence of ancient Martian life. This claim was based on several observations within the meteorite. The team reported the presence of organic compounds, specifically polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, associated with carbonate globules in the rock. They also identified magnetite crystals with properties similar to those produced by certain bacteria on Earth. Perhaps most intriguingly, they observed carbonate globules containing structures that they interpreted as possible fossilized bacteria-like organisms, along with nanoscale elongated objects resembling fossilized nanobacteria. The announcement of potential evidence for life in ALH ignited a fierce scientific debate that continues to this day. While some researchers were excited by the possibilities, many in the scientific community contested the biological interpretation of the evidence. Critics argued that the organic compounds found in the meteorite, while intriguing, are not unique to biological processes and can be found in other meteorites and cosmic environments. The magnetite crystals, although sharing some characteristics with biogenic magnetite, could potentially be produced through inorganic processes. Alternative explanations for the formation of the carbonate globules, such as hydrothermal or impact-related processes, were proposed. The size of the nanoscale structures, smaller than known terrestrial life forms, also raised questions about their biological nature.